Hello everyone, very good morning and welcome to Testbook Supercoaching for regulatory bodies and welcome to this current affairs session where we are going to discuss some important current affairs news as well as a few MCQs depending on the current affairs part. So again, before going to start this session, इस session को शुरू करने से पहले, इस session को start करने से पहले, if you have any questions, any queries, any doubt, please let me know in the comment section. And before that, am I audible to all? सबको आवाज आ रही कि नहीं आ रही है प्लीज एक बार कमेंट सेक्शन में बता दीजिएगा ओके सो वी विल स्टार्ट विद द सेशन एंड वी विल इनिशिएट विद द सेशन look your point is absolutely valid that sometimes we see some reports, sometimes we see some indices where the numbers looks very different and the reality looks very different. Okay, I will give one example that recently SBI came up with a report regarding the reduction of the poverty, but at the same time when it comes to the other reports or the international reports, Indian poverty looks very high, hunger looks very different, but the reports of the government of India looks very, very different. Yes, I agree with you. That's the reality. But every index or every data having their own ways of calculations, their own ways of giving the data. Sometimes the data can be correct, sometimes the data can be wrong. Okay, but we are no one to judge that. We have the responsibility right now to read the indices, to read the surveys given by different authorities. That's why whenever we are going to read the surveys, we should know who gave this survey, depending on which factors they gave the survey, what timeline they have managed or what timeline they have considered to provide the survey. That is our job right now. Okay, that should be our major focus. Yes, some international reports are not having the data which is mentioned by some national reports, completely different type of data, different type of understanding. And logically, you are right that when we read about the data, like recently we talked about the household consumption report, and when we discussed about the poverty report internationally, it looks very different, it looks poles apart. But what we can do, we just need to focus on the data which is mentioned by government. So if government is mentioning few data, government is mentioning few numbers, so on, depending on which factors they gave the number, for what timeline they have considered that particular numbers, that is our job right now to focus on. And our priority for even for the answer writing should be on the government data, because government, whatever the data is mentioned by the government of India, whatever the analysis done by the government of India is having major priority than the other factors. Like recently, if you read the newspaper, the today's newspaper, there is one article regarding the SBI's report. The article is saying that many economists or many specialists, there is a concern about the SBI's report regarding the poverty reduction, because SBI recently gave the report that the poverty reduction is there in India. But the methodology or the way they calculated it, it is not good or it is not proper. That is mentioned by many economists or the many specialists. So these kind of conflicts are always there, always there. Whenever the international data will come and that data is showing that India is not performing well, government of India raised a concern, government of India raised a doubt that their methodology is not good. So this kind of conflicts, this kind of issues are always there. Our job is that to know what type of report is being presented, who gave that report, depending on what methodology and what are the numbers we presented by them. That is our job right now. So sometimes कुछ चीजें थोड़ी सी sideline करनी पड़ती है. I hope you can understand that particular part. Okay, so I'll start with the session, and first we'll discuss about some important questions, discuss about some important MCQs through which we are going to discuss news also, and then we'll go towards today's current affairs part. The first question is on your screen. First question is about the part which we are discussing about. Rural poverty has significantly decreased according to Economic Research Department of which of the following institution? Yes, guys. So rural poverty has significantly decreased according to the Economic Research Department of which of the following institution? We talked about that, we discussed about that in one of our session. Yes, answer of this question is recently SBI's data came, and SBI is saying that the poverty is being reduced, especially in the rural area. Poverty काफी significantly कम हुई है. The higher consumption growth in the lowest 0.5% decile is the reason for the significant drop in the rural poverty, and that is mentioned by the SBI. Now, with a very few cases of extreme poverty, India's poverty rate could be currently between 4 and 4.5%, and that is another point mentioned by the SBI. ERD economists noted that the poverty line estimate was 1,000 in urban areas and 816 in 11-12, which is now being changed to 1944 to 1632 in the rural area. So in that way they give the another data कि ये अर्बन एरिया के लिए पॉवर्टी लाइन बन सकती है और ये रूरल एरिया के लिए ये भी पॉइंट मेंशन किया गया है. अगेन दैट इज द थिंकिंग ऑफ SBI's ERD department. It can be wrong because this, just like I have mentioned that many economists or many specialists, they raise the concern about the calculation methodology of SBI. But for right now, we are not going to judge them. Our job is what kind of data presented by them, and we'll just read that. अगर questions आते हैं उसके हिसाब से, so we are going to solve the questions. Okay. Like we'll wait for the survey, we'll wait for the budget, we'll wait for the census data, because that data is more accurate and that data is more important for the exam point of view to write down the answers logically. This is just the MCQ based data. We'll go to the next point. Look, we discussed this question. Okay, next question. The market cap deadline for UPI apps has been extended by NPCI for further how many years? I have mentioned that UPI apps, especially Unified Payment Interface app like Google Pay, Phone Pay. So NPCI decided to put some restrictions on their transactions. Like there should be a cap, the daily cap or the monthly cap for the transactions of all these fintech companies, all these fintech apps. So NPCI proposed that, RBI even accepted that proposal, but right now the proper cap will not be implemented right now. It will be implemented after 2 years, and that is mentioned by National Payment Corporation of India recently. So the extension is given to all these apps, all these fintech companies till 2026. Especially, like for example, we'll talk about the company like Google Pay, Phone Pay. They are handling maximum transaction in India. There are so many fintech companies, there are so many UPI based apps, and they are not getting the proper representation when it comes to the UPI transaction, and that's why NPCI came up with the idea that there should be a limitation of number of transactions for every app, for every fintech company. Their plan was that, for example, suppose phone pay ka aap use kar rahe ho, so you can use only few transactions a day through phone pay. You can use the other apps, you can use the other UPI apps for the further transactions, but there should be a limit of transactions for every app, so that there should be a level playing field for every app or every fintech company. But unfortunately, we are still not ready to implement that cap, and that's why a 2-year extension given by the NPCI. So third party application providers we have, and there should be a cap on them, and that's the part which we need to keep in mind. We'll go to the next part, the next question. Working group has been formed by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry for the revision of the base year for the wholesale price index from which to 20 to 23. We discuss about that. The working group is being created. This working group will be headed by Ramesh Chand sir. Ramesh Chand sir, he is a member of Niti Aayog. Under Niti Aayog, finance economics के बारे में ये काम करते हैं. So he is going to lead this working group, and this working group is going to give a recommendation to Commerce Ministry that how to shift and when to shift the base year from, that is the question asked over here, to 20 to 23. So right now the base year which we are following is 11-12. 11-12 is the base year right now which we are following, and we need to shift to 20 to 23. Already there was a committee called as a Goldar committee, and that committee gave the recommendation for the using this base year. So already Government of India decided, Ministry of Statistics Program Implementation decided that GDP calculations, CPI calculations under that ministry will be focusing on this base year 20 to 23 from Feb 2026. So from the Feb 2026 for GDP, for the CPI, we are going to use this base year. But wholesale price index comes under the Commerce Ministry, and they want a proper transition to use the new base year, and for that purpose this working group is being created. Again, the working group is headed by none other than the Niti Ayog's Professor Ramesh Chand. So remember his name. This particular group consists of few other economists like Dr. Surjit Bhalla, Shamika Ravi, then the CRISIL chief economist Dharmakriti Joshi. So there are very famous economists, and they are going to suggest Commerce Ministry how to make the transition from the present base year to the new base year, and what will be the timeline to impose the new base year. That those recommendations will be given by this working group. Okay, that's the news for us. Again, if you have the idea that which index is given by which ministry or under which ministry the index is being presented, then it will be much easier for you. Goldar Committee, again, the recommendations accepted by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, because that ministry is giving major or the bigger types of indices, important types of indices. The Commerce Ministry is working on the WPI and the core industry index. Again, the base year we are going to change for both according to the recommendation of this committee called as a Ramesh Chand working group. Next question. As per the revised norms for the deposit taking housing finance companies, these companies are required to maintain liquid asset equal to how much percent of their outstanding deposit as of Jan 1st, 2025. Liquid assets. Why to maintain the liquid asset? For the short-term money requirement, for the short-term crisis, if there any kind of a risk or the emergency. For that purposes, we required to maintain the liquid assets. So how much percent of their total outstanding deposit for the housing finance companies? Housing finance companies are supervised by the National Housing Bank, but regulation of the RBI is there, and for their smooth functioning, RBI recently decided this kind of liquid asset should be there, and the percentage is 14%. 14% of their outstanding deposits. So uska liquid asset maintain karna padega. Again, under housing finance companies, we can have the two types of this institution. Some are deposit taking, some are non-deposit taking. And for the deposit taking, this concept is there, 14% liquid asset of their outstanding deposit. And that is a concept mentioned by them. Remember, housing finance companies nowadays now working just like the NBFCs, non-banking financial company. So RBI in the recent few amendments decided to change all the criteria of housing finance companies to the criteria given for the non-banking financial companies, and that is a major factor. This is really very important. Many questions will be asked on this. Dhyan rakhega. Okay. So by the July 1st, 2025, RBI has mandated that the need for total liquid asset rise to 15% with the 10% of the amount being uncovered approved securities. So remember that is another important factor. It will be increased to 15% by the 1st of July 2025, and right now it is 14% mentioned by the Reserve Bank of India in the recent amendment. Next question. Manish Singhal has been appointed as the Secretary General of which of the following institution? This is a group of companies है कि जिसके हेड के तौर पे, सेक्रेटरी जनरल के तौर पे मनीष सिंघल साहब को अपॉइंट किया गया है. A very simple question regarding the appointment. The answer of this particular question is ASSOCHAM. ASSOCHAM is replacing Deepak Sood Manish Singhal is going to replace the Deepak Sood as a Secretary General of ASSOCHAM. ASSOCHAM is a Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industries, जो इंडिया के businesses का apex body है. In India, we have multiple authorities like FICCI, NASSCOMs, the CCI, then this ASSOCHAM. These are some institutions. These institutions are created by the industries. Industries की institutions है और जो उनको represent करती है, उनके benefits, उनके problems को यहाँ पे government के सामने present करने के लिए help करती है. Even abhi, for example, we are in a budget making process right now. Right now, the government is in budget making process. So during that process, usually finance ministry discuss some pointers with these authorities because they are representing businesses, they are representing industries. So what the industries are expecting, businesses are expecting from the government of India. So few things can be usually discussed by the government of India with such authorities. That's all from this particular news. We'll go to the next question. Cabinet approved the extension of PM Fasal Bima Yojana, a weather-based crop insurance scheme till 25-26. In which year this scheme was launched? We discuss about that. We discuss much in detail about this particular news that Fasal Bima Yojana will be extended by Government of India. We created a fiat fund under this particular scheme for especially technological advancements, like we talked about winds, we talked about the yield tech. So all these things we already discussed, which was under the cabinet announcement. So there were two cabinet announcements, one announcement regarding the Fasal Bima Yojana and restructure weather crop insurance scheme, and another announcement is for the DAP subsidy. The extra DAP subsidy will be provided to farmers, so that we have discussed already. So answer of this question is 2016. In 2016, Government of India announced Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, Rabi, Kharif and the horticulture or the commercial crop. For that purposes, the scheme is being implemented. And under this scheme, we are focusing on new technology, especially the drone technology or the satellite technology. And for that purpose, we created a fiat fund. That fund will be helpful for more advancement of technological use for Fasal Bima Yojana that we have discussed in our session. Who took over as the CEO of the Unique Identification Authority of India? UIDAI Aadhaar Card Authority. So he is the new CEO of this authority. This authority works under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, which we have already discussed. Nandan Nilekani Committee, on the recommendation of Nandan Nilekani Committee, we introduced this in India and under the Ministry of Electronic Information Technology. So new CEO of this authority is Bhunesh Kumar Sir. So that will be the another important part for the exam point of view. Bhunesh Kumar Sir is a IS officer from the Uttar Pradesh cadre, 1995 batch IS officer, and he is going to handle this authority with additional secretary in the Ministry of Electronic Information Technology. So Bhunesh Kumar Sir will be handling two portfolios, the CEO of UIDAI as well as the additional secretary of Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology under Ashwini Vaishnao's leadership, and that is the part for the exam. So these were the few questions. Sorry, I guess another question is there. Which of the following become the first state to link the forest ecosystem to green GDP? Very, very important. Green GDP, what is this green GDP concept? Green GDP means to achieve certain GDP, to achieve certain GDP numbers, how much CO2 you have emitted, okay, or how much CO2 you have conserved. So in that way, basically this data is being calculated. Green GDP concept was first time given by the Chinese economists. Basically, China first time decided to calculate the green GDP. Then within few months, they decided not to follow the suit. But many countries are following green GDP. Green GDP basically shows that to achieve certain numbers of the GDP, how much CO2 you have emitted. If you have reduced the CO2 emission, which means it's a good part that you have did a sustainable development, sustainable growth is there. So recently, Chhattisgarh decided to use this forest ecosystem for the green GDP calculation, because Chhattisgarh का forest percentage बढ़ गया है. Recently, there was a report, there was a forest and tree cover report given by the Ministry of Environment, and under that report, we saw that the increase in percentage of the forest cover is very good with respect to the Chhattisgarh. The Madhya Pradesh is having the huge forest cover, no doubt about that. Maharashtra is having the huge tree cover. But when it comes to the increasing percentage of the forest and tree cover, Chhattisgarh doing a very good job. And that's why Chhattisgarh government decided to use the green GDP concept, and the new forest ecosystem should be the part of that. That is their major focus over here. So of course, questions will be asked in the exam. Remember that part. Okay. Now we'll start with the news discussion. We'll start with today's news analysis. I'm going to cover the major newspaper articles in this particular session, because there are other two sessions regarding the current affairs where our faculties are discussing PIB as well as a finance related news. I am here going to discuss some newspaper analysis which are really very important for your understanding as well as your answer writing and for your phase 1 also. So all those factors I am going to discuss in this session. The first news is important. The financial year 25 GDP growth may remain between 6.4 to 6.8% range. Okay. Now, after the Q2 results, the GDP analysis of our country is completely changed. So many authorities, even the RBI, even the government of India, they are not expecting much GDP. Earlier, we were expecting that GDP will be more than 7%. That was a expectation even by the government of India, even by the RBI. They were talking about 7%, 7.2%. Some authorities were talking about 7.5%. But after the quarter 2 results and a lukewarm performance in the first half of the financial year, the GDP predictions for India completely change. So many authorities, they are talking about that India's GDP will be between 6.4% to 6.8%. Recently, HDFC also talked about 6.5%, which we're talking about 6.8, Barclays 6.5, Fitch 6.4, ADB 6.5, Goldman Sachs 6, Morgan Stanley 6.3. So everyone, they have reduced the India's GDP projections to 6% or the 6.5% or 6.4%. Even RBI is talking about 6.6%. Earlier, RBI was very optimistic with 7%, with 7.2%. That was the pointer they have mentioned, but now they're talking about 6.6%. Even Government of India in its monthly report talked about 6.5%. So if any quarter is not performing well, it is having the huge impact on the India's GDP projections. Let's hope about the good results in quarter 3, because quarter 3 results will come soon. Then हमें पता चलेगा कि exactly quarter 3 में क्या सिनेरियो है. अगर quarter 3 का ग्रोथ और कम हो गया होगा या ग्रोथ प्रॉपर नहीं होगा तो शायद ये एक्सपेक्टेशंस और नीचे जा सकते हैं. But still India will be the kind of a big economy when it comes to GDP number, or the fastest GDP numbers will be there with respect to other countries. अभी भी हमारे numbers काफी अच्छे with respect to the other countries, but we need the growth more than 7% if we really want to become the Atmanirbhar India or the developed India. By 2047, अगर विकसित भारत 2047 तक बनना है, so we required a GDP growth of more than 7% every fiscal year, every financial year. That was already mentioned by the government of India in the previous documents. That's it. That's all about this particular numbers. We'll go to the next. This is a very simple news, but they do ask such kind of questions in the exam. They do ask such kind of questions. The very simple advertisement by the government of India, named is Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2025. Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2025 will be organized in New Delhi, Yashobhumi, Dwarka. From the 18th to 20th of Jan, they are going to organize this. Again, I'm repeating, Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2025. This complete expo is focusing on one factor that is called as a automotive value chain. Automotive value chain को ध्यान में रखते हुए इसे organize किया जा रहा है. So two ministries are involved here. One is the Commerce Ministry, another is the Heavy Industry Ministry. Can you tell me the name of the minister for the Heavy Industry Ministry? Please एक बार comment section में नाम डाल दीजिएगा. Commerce Ministry is in the hands of Piyush Goyal sir. Everyone knows about that. Another thing, Beyond Boundaries is the theme for this Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2025, जो एग्जाम के लिए बहुत जरूरी रहेगा. Okay, तो प्लीज यहाँ पे ध्यान रखिएगा. 18 to 21st of Jan, this expo will be there in Yashobhumi, New Delhi, Dwarka. Okay, yes, sir. Who is the Heavy Industry Minister of India? H.D. Kumar Swamy. Yes, H.D. Kumar Swamy is right now the handling this ministry. Absolutely right. Liquidity deficit and fiscal deficit are the same things, or there are differences? Yes, there are differences, my dear friend. Okay. Liquidity deficit is about the short-term money or the short-term management. Just now we saw one news, okay, right, regarding the housing finance company, that for the short term we should have some liquidity in our hand. Okay, that is about the liquidity deficit. When it comes to fiscal deficit, is about the overall the financial expenditures, the financial income of the government of India for the whole financial year. Okay, and liquidity deficit is basically the concept used by certain institution, certain organization, certain banks, or the certain NBFCs for their short-term money management. Like for example, some are calculating for 90 days, some are calculating for the 60 days, some are calculating for the 30 days. In that way, we have these liquidity deficit criteria. Like I will give a very simple example. Suppose, for example, I am running one business, and my monthly expenses for that to run that business is 25 lakhs. Okay, but right now in my accounts I am only having 20 lakhs. So for this month I am facing liquidity crunch because I required more 5 lakhs to run the operations of my company. Might be in the next month or the after that I am going to get a huge amount of money will come, or inflow will come, but right now the inflow is very less, so I am facing liquidity crunch. for this month. So in that way, we can calculate this particular stuff. So yes, there will be differences. Differences तो यहाँ पे रहेंगे. Aditya, the question which you have asked. Now, this news is really very important, especially for your analytical purpose, for your answer writing purpose. Now, in India, there was one scheme launched by Government of India. The scheme was launched in 2008. Name of the scheme, Dhanalakshmi scheme, shifts gender norms long after its close. Okay. Now, Dhanalakshmi scheme is not in use right now. It was launched in 2008. Government of India decided not to follow the suit, not to follow this scheme, and they decided to close the scheme. But still, some benefits being transferred by Government of India to Dhanalakshmi scheme beneficiaries, which was promised in 2008. Because scheme 2008 में start हो गई थी. कुछ promises थे जो गवर्नमेंट को पूरे करने थे. वो promises स्कीम बंद होने के बाद भी गवर्नमेंट ने ट्रांसफर किए, गवर्नमेंट ने प्रोवाइड किए. Now, one US-based institution, one US-based research institution regarding the social issues, regarding the social change, they studied this scheme and they found one result, and that result is very good. They are saying due to this Dhanalakshmi scheme, the gender scenario change in India. Not like तुरंत चेंज नहीं हुआ, बट ओवर द पीरियड काफी ज्यादा बदलाव देखने को मिले. जब धनलक्ष्मी स्कीम चल रही थी, जब धनलक्ष्मी स्कीम वाज वर्किंग, मेनी पेरेंट्स दे प्रेफर्ड द गर्ल चाइल्ड ओवर द मेल चाइल्ड, एंड दैट इज द पॉइंट मेंशन बाय दिस रिपोर्ट. यूजुअली इन इंडिया वी से दैट कि कोई भी स्कीम चला लीजिए, पर गर्ल चाइल्ड एंड मेल चाइल्ड वाला जो जेंडर डिस्क्रिमिनेटी है वो कई बार बदलते हुए नहीं दिखाई देती. इवन वी कैन सी हरियाणा के अंदर रिसेंट, अकॉर्डिंग टू रिसेंट रिपोर्ट, द रेशियो बिटवीन द गर्ल and the boys is also negative, that again it goes wrong way or going down for the girl child, okay, which we saw recently, which was in news recently. But this report is saying, or this US's researchers report regarding the social issue is saying that Dhanalakshmi scheme was very successful, and unfortunately government closed this scheme, but otherwise it was really giving some fruits. क्या होता है इंडिया में ना, एक बात बड़ी खतरनाक है, with you, with me, with everyone. We want short-term results. We always pursuing for the short-term results. In this corporate sector, we don't have that kind of patience, that kind of focus, that some schemes or some things will give you result in long term, not in the short term. Same happens with general awareness. General awareness, current affairs are these kind of subjects जहां पे आप regularly पढ़ते हो, result आपको थोड़ा late मिलता है, जल्दी नहीं मिलेगा. Because to know current affairs, to understand current affairs, we should have patience, we should be sincere. But again, the same problem, we want result very quick. Same problem happened over here. Dhanalakshmi scheme is showing results now, but unfortunately the scheme is being closed. So let's talk about Dhanalakshmi scheme. इसके बारे में एक बार बात कर लेते हैं कि Dhanalakshmi scheme exactly क्या थी. It was launched in 3rd of March 2008 by the Government of India under Women and Child Development Ministry. Now exactly what this scheme is, okay, या ये scheme क्या थी, इसके ऊपर बात करते हैं. और scheme was, sorry, the Dhanalakshmi scheme primarily addressed the gender discrimination issued by providing financial incentive to families and encouraging them to retain the girl child. It prevents underage marriage of girls and covers their education, medical expenses. However, Dhanalakshmi scheme has been stopped and is currently not implemented in India. So it was covering everything. It was helping to reduce the child marriage. It was providing the health financial support or the health insurance, I will say. Even the education support was there. So let's talk about the objectives. To create mindset amongst the people to value the life of girl children and not treat them as a liability. That was the first objective. Second, encourage the girl children to enroll into schools, continue schooling at least to the class 8, and delayed marriage till attain the 18 years, because that time 18 years was the concept. Now we have shifted that concept. Empower women with the financial independence and increase their self-esteem. Prevent female infanticide by providing insurance coverages. That was a major factor. Due to that, infanticide was kind of reduced. Then remove the stigma attached to the girl's birth as a bad omen and highlight the girl's worth as equal to other family members, and equip a girl to avail job opportunity and encourage her education. So these were the objectives of Government of India. Now, eligibility criteria. A girl child born after 8th of November 2008, that was a concept mentioned that time. Okay, so 8th of November 2008 के बाद जो गर्ल चाइल्ड का बर्थ होगा उसके लिए स्कीम स्टार्ट की जाएगी. every girl child irrespective of socio-economic status. That was the best thing with this. नहीं तो अदरवाइज इंडिया में स्कीम जब बनती है तो हम पुअरेस्ट ऑफ द पुअर के लिए, गरीब के लिए स्कीम बनाते हैं. यहां पे क्लियरली मेंशन किया गया every girl child irrespective of socio-economic status. That was the point mentioned because लड़कियां नहीं चाहिए या लड़की अगर होगी तो उसका सेक्स पहले ही आइडेंटिफाई करके बच्चे को गिरा देना. दिस थिंग्स आर वेरी कॉमन स्पेशली इन दोज सोसाइटीज विद दोज हाउसहोल्ड्स जिनका पैसा है, वो भी लोग बहुत ज्यादा करते हैं. दैट्स व्हाई irrespective of socio-economic status, every girl child in the family regardless of number of girls, that is another factor. Not only 2 girls or 3 girls, like जितनी भी लड़कियां हो रही है, so there is no binding on, there was no binding on that. That was another factor. The girl child must be covered under the immunization program. That is another important thing. Many families in India, yes, it is still there in India. If then it comes to vaccination, immunization, if the girl child is there, parents are neglecting girl childs with respect to immunization or the vaccination. They are focusing more on the male child कि वो healthy होने चाहिए. Girl child का miss हो गया तो भी चल जाएगा, vaccination नहीं दिया तो भी चल जाएगा. This is the mindset we have still in our country, and to stop that, we started with this. And then the girl child should be Indian resident. That is another factor which they have mentioned. Now, what kind of benefits they were providing? Now look at the benefits. You will be amazed. At the birth registration, the girl child ₹5,000. जैसे ही गर्ल का बर्थ होता है तो तभी 5,000 रजिस्ट्रेशन के टाइम पे मिल जाएंगे. फॉर इम्यूनाइजेशन स्प्रेड अक्रॉस द डिफरेंट इन्फेंसी स्टेजेस 1 to 50. जो भी वैक्सीनेशन होगा इन्फेंसी, जो मींस स्टार्टिंग का 1 ईयर है, उस 1 ईयर में जो भी इम्यूनाइजेशन है उसके लिए 1 to 50 का फाइनेंशियल सपोर्ट गवर्नमेंट प्रोवाइड करेगी. देखो, अगर पुअरेस्ट ऑफ द पुअर है तो गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल में वैसे भी फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट आपका इम्यूनाइजेशन हो ही जाता है. अब वैक्सीनेशन के बाद कभी कभी बेबी को बुखार आ जाएगा, देयर विल बी सम कॉम्प्लिकेशंस, सो टू हेल्प विद दैट 1 to 50 विल बी प्रोवाइडेड. At the enrollment and completion of the primary schooling 3500, enrollment of secondary schooling up to class 8 3750. When the girl child is 18 years, insurance maturity covers of 1 lakh rupees, and all this cash transfer are transferred over the defined period with the insurance maturity. Okay, so in that way they are transferring the money. Obviously that amount was in 2008. Over the period they have mentioned that with inflation we will change the way the financial support will increase the financial support. It was also mentioned in this policy. इस policy में लिखा गया था. So these numbers were in 2008. If we talk about today's numbers, obviously it looks very irrelevant कि 1 to 50 में क्या होगा. But still again very important कि if we are providing to each and every girl child, it's a big thing. That's really a very big thing, and there was no cap on number of girl child or socio-economic status, nothing. So that was the scheme. Unfortunately, scheme को close कर दिया गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने by giving many other reasons, or they come up with the बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ such kind of scheme, सुकन्या समृद्धि scheme. But this scheme was giving a very good result, which is mentioned by none other than the one research study of the USA. Now this scheme was initially implemented into only 7 states, जहां पे थोड़ा सा गर्ल चाइल्ड का नंबर निगेटिव दिख रहा था, स्पेशली उन स्टेट्स में इंप्लीमेंट किया गया था, नॉट द होल इंडिया. सो पंजाब, बिहार, यूपी, छत्तीसगढ़, झारखंड, ओडिशा, आंध्रा, इन 7 स्टेट्स में इसे इंप्लीमेंट किया गया था इनिशियल फेज में. एंड गवर्नमेंट वेयर प्लानिंग कि फ्यूचर में शायद इसे और बाकी जगहों पे स्प्रेड किया जाए, पर पहले इन स्टेट्स पे फोकस करते हैं. बट नाउ द स्कीम इज बीइंग closed by the government of India. So sometimes some old schemes can haunt government, can give a good result to government. Same thing happened with NAREGA also. Government of India was planning to close the NAREGA, but that year itself, before closing the NAREGA, World Bank's result came, the USS researchers report came, and they said world की सबसे best unskilled labor की scheme is NAREGA, and we decided not to close NAREGA. In fact, we increased the financial support under NAREGA. So unfortunately, अगर धनलक्ष्मी का रिपोर्ट पहले आ जाते, उसके रिजल्ट्स पहले ही आ जाते, तो शायद ये स्कीम भी हमें बंद करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती. So sometimes the question can be asked on the old schemes. Even for your answer writing, you can give the reference of this scheme. Definitely you can talk about this scheme in your answer writing. You are going to get a very good marks also. So that's about this particular scheme. Let's go to the present era. We were in past 2008. wonderful scheme was there. Now we'll talk about the present era. India ranks second in attacks by the threat actors in 2024. The cyber attacks. So after USA, India is on the second number when it comes to the attacks. Okay, अगर हम बात करें regarding the attacks on the Indian financial system, Indian companies, especially Indian companies, Indian MSMEs or Indian big companies, India second number पे आती है after USA. USA is facing many attacks on their companies, their servers, and India is at the second number. So ransomware impact across the top industry. Manufacturing में 16.3% है, construction 12.1%, healthcare 10.8%, technology telecom 10.5%, financial service 6.9%. This news is about the ransomware. Under ransomware, what happens? Someone is hacking your system and asking for the ransom, asking for the money. Okay, that is called ransomware. Other cyber frauds are there. They are very individual based cyber frauds. But when it comes to ransomware, ransomware will be with always either companies or high net worth individuals. So they will try to hack their system, try to close their system, try to hold their system. So to run their system again, they ask for the ransom, and many companies are ready to provide ransom also. So after USA, India is facing huge trouble due to this ransomware. In India, we can see multiple frauds these days. Like last time we discussed about the digital arrest. There is also pig butchering, which we have discussed like few days back, mentioned by the Home Ministry. Now another report came, and that report is saying after USA, India is facing many threats, especially when it comes to ransomware, and manufacturing industries are suffering a lot. So we'll talk about the US, India, Israel. These are the countries. Even some of the ransomware or some of the threats are coming from India also. Okay. So when it comes to the threats origin, Indians are also doing the very like a different kind of job these days. Earlier, we used to blame the Chinese and the Russians that they are attacking the systems of many countries. But nowadays, the significant number are coming from India itself. So India से भी काफी सारे threat actors there, they are actually creating these problems and creating the ransomware issues also. So India is also having many such kind of nuisance players. They are performing these ransomwares on Indian companies itself. There is another part. Okay, it's a simple report. Again, this report is given by one of the institution. The report obviously will be different for the different institution. Even Government of India will provide another report. We have I4C. I4C is the new institution created by Home Ministry. They will confirm this report which is given by the private authority. So we'll wait for their confirmation that exactly what kind of ransomware percentage there in India and how many ransomware attacks originated from India, which we need to keep watch on the Home Ministry's data. Now this news is important. National Cooperative and Cosmos Bank going to merge. RBI gave the approval. Cosmos Bank is also the cooperative bank. 1906 में Cosmos Bank को create किया गया. Headquarter is in Pune. NC Kelkar was the founder of this particular cooperative bank. It's a cooperative bank, but it is one of the most successful cooperative bank. So another cooperative bank named as a National Cooperative from Bengaluru decided to merge their operations with the Cosmos Bank. Earlier this year, there were two cooperatives. One is called as the Maratha Sahkari Bank and Sahebrao Deshmukh Sahkari Bank. They also merged their operations with the Cosmos Bank. So two cooperatives from Maharashtra, Maratha Sahkari Bank and Sahebrao Deshmukh Sahkari Bank, they merged their operation with Cosmos in 2024. And now in 2025, the National Cooperative Bank decided to merge their operations with the Cosmos Bank. So these mergers are very common. Obviously, we need to take the permission from the RBI, and RBI gave the final approval for this merger. That's it. That's all from for the news or the exam point of view. RBI lifts restriction imposed on the Aroham Financial Services. Aroham Financial Services is a Mumbai-based NBFC, Mumbai-based fintech company, and RBI imposed some restrictions because of the lack of KYC, lack of regulatory guidelines, and the discrepancy in their businesses. Finally, RBI decided to lift the ban. RBI decided to lift the restrictions. Now they will work properly. It's a NBFC, non-banking financial companies, especially microfinance के अंदर ये काफी अच्छा performance दिखाते हैं. But they didn't follow few guidelines of RBI, Reserve Bank of India, and that's why in 2024 RBI decided to put some restriction. Now the restrictions will be removed within few months, that as per the Reserve Bank of India. Now another big news, you might have heard about Unity Small Finance Bank. Okay, Unity Small Finance Bank is the 11th small finance bank of our country. This small finance bank is created by the funding from the Bharat Pay. Bharat Pay was one of the major promoter to create Unity Small Finance Bank. Now Bharat Pay decided to sell 25% stakes in the Unity Small Finance Banks for 800 million. Basically, there is a rule. There is a rule created by Reserve Bank of India on the recommendation of Usha Thorat Committee कि कोई भी जब बैंक बनती है, स्पेशली स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक बनती है, तो उसके अंदर प्रमोटर के जो शेयर्स है ओवर द पीरियड कम करने पड़ेंगे. 12 साल के टाइम फ्रेम में वो शेयर्स लेस देन 20% पे जाने चाहिए. These are the rules created by the RBI as per the recommendation of Usha Thorat Committee. So now the thing is that when the Unity Small Finance Bank was created, 49% shareholding was with the Bharat Pay. Bharat Pay was 49% shareholding थी. Now Bharat Pay is going to reduce the shareholding up to 25% right now. तो 25% तक की shareholding उनकी अभी वो लाने वाले. So it was 49%, उसे सेल कर करके उसको 25% पर लाने की बातें यहां पे फिलहाल की जा रही है बाय दी भारत पे. सो 800 मिलियंस में ये शेयर सेल किए जाएंगे. अब यहां पे और कुछ डिस्कस करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. इट वाज रिगार्डिंग द बैंकिंग सेक्टर एंड इट वाज अ रूल. It is a rule. It is basically common rule for Indian banking sector. If while creating a bank, if the promoter is having a huge shareholding, then the promoter needs to reduce the shareholding in coming 10 years or the 12 years, depending on the banking sector. वो कम करना ही पड़ता है और उसी रूल्स के हिसाब से भारत पे अपनी शेयर होल्डिंग यहां पे कम कर रहा है. दे आर सेलिंग द शेयर्स बिकॉज देयर शुड नॉट बी अ सिंगल लार्जेस्ट प्रमोटर. अगर एक ही प्रमोटर के पास मैक्सिमम शेयर रहे तो शायद बैंक के फंक्शनिंग में मॉरलिटी या एथिकल क्लॉज प्रॉब्लम्स हो सकते, इश्यूज हो सकते. एंड दैट्स व्हाई दिस इज द रूल ऑफ रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया दैट प्रमोटर शुड रिड्यूस द शेयर होल्डिंग. उसे रिड्यूस करना पड़ता है. ओवर द पीरियड इट शुड बी लेस देन 10%. ये भी क्राइटेरिया होता है, बट वो आरबीआई टाइम टू टाइम इंफॉर्म करेगी स्मॉल फाइनेंस बैंक को. तो ये एक फैक्टर यहां पे हमारे लिए जरूरी है. This was a news, I guess we have discussed about this news that METI, Ministry of Electronic Information Technology, set a target of 500 billion production by 2030. So it's a new target set by Ashwini Vaishnav sir's ministry, and the target is that electronic manufacturing of India should be 500 billion. That should be the valuation by 2030. Earlier, the target was regarding 2026. The target was $300 billion by 2026. That was the target. Now, the target is being revamped with the year as well as the number. So, 500 billion by 2030 is the target mentioned by them. Obviously, production link incentive scheme is going to play the vital role to achieve this particular target. So, whenever the ministries are putting some targets in front of us, we need to keep watch on them because in exams they do ask question about such kind of things. And this news which we have discussed, and we discussed the question also around this news regarding the rural poverty ratio fell below 5% in 24, and this is very much in news right now. So there are some articles in the newspapers, in the various news portals. Do read those articles regarding this data because SBI's calculations are not good mentioned by few economists. So ये आपके लिए एक थोड़ा सा रीडिंग के लिए होमवर्क है. प्लीज इसको एक बार गो थ्रू कर लीजिएगा. So yes guys, that's all from my side for the day. 11 years, 11th anniversary of Testbook is today, and we are giving some discount on this 11th anniversary of Testbook. So for that reason, you can enroll into our batches. So आप हमारे batches में enroll कर सकते हो with some discount. So yes, if you want to enroll into, just one sec, रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज बैच, अगर आपको रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज के बैच में अगर एनरोल करना होगा तो आप तो आप एनरोल कर सकते हो. सो हमारी रेगुलेटरी बॉडी की लक्ष्य 2.0 बैच चल रही है. सो इस बैच के अंदर भी आपको यहां पे ऑफ मिल जाएगा. ओके, सो व्हाइल एनरोलिंग यू कैन यूज दी, आप यहां पे कूपन कोड यूज कर सकते हो एंड कूपन कोड विल गिव यू अ वेरी गुड डिस्काउंट. यहाँ पे आपको डिस्काउंट मिल जाएगा. ओके, सो इफ यू गो टू द बाय नाउ, क्या आई गेस डायरेक्टली पेमेंट वाला नंबर आएगा. सो PUSHPAK विल गिव यू अ डिस्काउंट व्हाइल एनरोलिंग इनटू दिस पर्टिकुलर बैच. ओके, दैट्स इट गाइस, दैट्स ऑल फ्रॉम माय साइड फॉर द डे. विल सी यू इन द नेक्स्ट सेशन. नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में आपसे मुलाकात होगी. कल सुबह 6 बजे हमारा सेशन करंट अफेयर्स का जो बैंकिंग चैनल पे होता है, एंड 9 AM on this channel. Okay, so we'll see you there at that time. Bye bye, take care. Threat actors, Mukund, means those who are basically performing these threats, those who are basically doing these ransom activities, they are called as a threat actors. उसकी बात की जाती है. Okay,